Yeah, this is honed down from a 1-hour presentation, so I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. But this is basically the anatomy of a closer. And when I talk to people in the chamber, I hear a lot of stories about difficulties. In fact, it was, I think, Candy McCool mentioned that she gets the same refusal every time. She just this impasse she gets when she's trying to close somebody, and they keep saying the same thing. And when I talk to Nikki from Word FM, she also has trouble with closing and getting people to make a decision. So I thought this would be a good talk based on what I've learned over the years on what closing really is. So this is the anatomy of a closer. I'm going to talk about the definition of a closer because we're all in sales. We're all trying to grow a client base. So this is going to be about the definition of a closer, the psychological aspects of it, and then the techniques. This is more about the psychological aspects of it than techniques, because if you don't have the psychological part of it, it doesn't do you any good. It's like having the keys to a car with no motor. The techniques are the keys, but without the courage and the confidence, you can't do anything with it. And it's basically a mindset. So here's my definition of a closer. You simply help people make decisions. A lot of people feel like there's pressure when you're closing on both sides. That's really pressure you create from not being able to make a decision or from not knowing what you want. So basically, it's a lot like a professional organizer comes to your house. What do? The same thing you can do, but they're just helping you make decisions on what you need to keep, sell, or throw away. And you don't know how to make those decisions. So they keep these clothes or sell them. They help you say, well, I haven't worn these clothes in 2 years. That's one criteria to get rid of it. So they're just basically decision makers. So basically, you're helping someone get to where they want to be. So the anatomy of a closer is basically a closer is confident. The most confident person in the room will win, seller or buyer. They have a positive attitude. You always have to be positive. Like that morning DJ, no matter what they went through that morning before they went to work, they have a positive attitude no matter what. So you leave the baggage behind you, you sit across from somebody, they're the most important person in the room at that point, and nothing to do with anything in your past enters that room. Communication skills are important. You have to take what's in your head and put it in somebody else's head in a way that's very articulate, that there's no doubt what's in your head is now in their head. And sometimes that's through analogies, sarcasm, humor, whatever it takes, but to get that from your head into their head clearly so that you're on the same page. And then low key. A lot of people think good closers are high key and they talk a lot. They try to close and pressure you, when a closer really is someone who just asks a lot of questions in a very low key manner. So why is closing so difficult? Why do people always say that it's the most difficult part of a sale? Introducing themselves to people is no problem, but when they actually ask for the close, what's the problem? It's basically because the salesperson fears rejection in most cases. They're worried about no. And in the customer, their fear of getting the wrong thing, paying too much for it, having the wrong article, or making a wrong decision or a wrong choice. That's where the fear comes in, and your job as a salesperson or a closer is to nullify those fears and help them through it. This is why no one likes sales, basically, because it's 80% failure. In fact, it's usually more than that. Typically, it's 9 out of 10 times you're going to get a no, and that's what people don't get. In baseball, if you strike out 70% of the time, that's good. That's batting 300, and that's supposed to be good. But in this, it's a little bit tougher. If you can't handle no, you're going to have a problem in this business because you are not going to get yeses more than you get nos. So failure is not the opposite of success. You have to look at it as part of success. If you're not failing, you're not trying. If you're not getting a no, you don't know where you are. So it's like when you were a kid and you played this game, something was hidden in a room like an Easter egg, and you're walking around and someone says warm, warm, cold, cold, and you're walking around. That cold is good information. It's like a no. You know you're going the wrong direction when you have a no, so you need to hear a no. You need to get that no to get headed in the right direction. So this is where it falls apart. When we take those personally, the no's personally, or the rejection personally, when we're offering a service or a product, we're actually projecting ourselves into that. It's like we're getting a no and we're getting rejected. It's not us, it's the product or services, and there's a reason for that rejection. So don't take it personally. Emotions can take us out of this. Now this I learned from a guy who's called George Zaluki. He's the Dean of Psychology at the University of Michigan, and this is what he said. Your whole life was designed around avoiding uncomfortable emotions that you have chosen to be the most uncomfortable. You voted on that, you made them uncomfortable, you decided that, that's why they're uncomfortable. If you change your mind, that won't be the case anymore. So you have emotions that you voted on as being so severe to experience that you have shaped your entire life around avoiding those emotions. So you are really the culmination of all your fears. You will not go beyond that, those fears until you actually get outside your comfort zone and realize that you have to start attaching new themes to those emotions. So when a waitress goes around the room and asks for coffee, someone says no, coffee, no, coffee, no, coffee, no, coffee, no. She doesn't care how many no's she got. When someone says yes, she's not all excited. She doesn't really care. She just wants to know what you want. Taking cream or sugar doesn't matter to her. She just wants to help you. Getting a no is not an emotional problem. So you have to realize that you voted on that as being a difficult thing to establish or a difficult thing to experience. So comfort zone. A lot of people use this word a lot and they don't like to leave their comfort zone. They say, that's not in my comfort zone. I don't like doing that. In fact, it was a couple people, I think it was Nikki, that actually said, I don't like making cold calls. That's not my comfort zone. Well, here's your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is inconsistent with your capabilities as a human being. It's an illusion that's slowly killing you. It is not part of what you are to stay in your comfort zone. You need to get outside your comfort zone. Nobody that stays in their comfort zone ever achieves anything. That's typically people who are shy. Shy really is a lack of confidence. It's a vacuum where confidence should be. Shy is really a racket. Shy is, please don't let you discover me. That's what that really is. And you will not be successful if you are shy. Shy has to go away. Shy is a lack of confidence, and there's ways to build confidence. Now this is interesting. George Zaluki also came up with this. 2 parts to your head, 2 voices in your head. One is the thinker and one's the prover, and those voices are always going back and forth. What the prover does is tries to prove what you think. So if you think you're not a good cook, your brain will try to prove that. The next thing you cook, if it doesn't work, you'll say, aha, see, I was right. The lasagna's burnt on the outside, soft in the middle, I can't cook, I quit. So you spend your life trying to prove what you think. If you thought differently, you would try to prove differently. This is pretty much what Facebook is all about. People look for information that supports their preconceived notions, and then they post it. If they find information that's valid but doesn't agree with them, they won't post it. It's good information, it's accurate, but they will not post it because it doesn't agree with them. We always have to look for experiences that we think are in total agreement with us, and that's what we base our lives on. So your mind has an incredible commitment to making you right exactly the way you are. That's basically blaming externally. If you're not where you want to be, if you think it's somebody else's fault, you've got a problem. Where you are is your fault. Everyone says, well, this person's a self-made man, that person's a self-made man, and they're always referring to successful people. I could go downtown and show you a prison full of self-made men. The same thing. They made themselves. If you're not responsible for your own actions, you can't be successful. So gaining confidence, how do you do it quickly? Don't procrastinate. That makes you confident. When you do what you say you're going to do, that also makes you confident. And set goals and get them. Setting goals are important. Setting goals are like going on vacation. If you want to set a goal, what do you do on your vacation? You put a pin in a map where you want to go, then you figure out how you're going to get there. Can you imagine someone saying, I'm going on vacation, they get in the car and start driving without any idea where they're going because they set no goal? That's the exact same thing. Where are you going? On vacation. I'm not sure where. That's like saying, I'm going to be the top salesperson in my company this year. How are you going to do that? I don't know. I'm just going to be the top salesperson. You rah, rah, rah. You're driving down the street. You don't know where you're going. So what do you do when you're going on vacation? You figure out where you're going, how you're going to get there, how long it's going to take you, when you're leaving, and when you're coming back. Do you buy tickets? Do you fly? Do you drive? What do? You figure all that out. Now, you may not hit your goal on time. We planned a vacation to Grand Cayman, missed our connecting flight, so we didn't get there on time. That doesn't mean we quit. The only difference is when you're in your business and you're setting goals, you don't always have a lot of skin in the game. But when you plan a vacation, you've got some skin in the game. You've got a hotel you've paid for and flights you've paid for, so it matters that you reach these goals. When you set goals for yourself, if you don't put skin in the game, you're probably not going to reach them. And if you don't visualize them, you're not going to reach them either. So back to closing, let's talk about what it takes to get a close. When you're talking with someone, this is about asking questions and listening to the answers. So this is an acronym called NEEDS. NEEDS is find out what they have now. That's important, right? If they have a copy machine and you sell copy machines, find out what they have now. And then find out what they like most about it. What's the best thing about it? Because you want to be on the same page with them. Find out if there was something they could change about what they have now, what would it be? Because it'll cue you into what they want. And then who in addition, this is important, who in addition to them will make the decision, will be part of the decision-making process. This is the part where Candy, I think, had some trouble because it was always like, I got to talk to my partner. How many times do we get those energy calls? Hey, who controls the electric bill in your house, right? Why do they say that? because they don't want to be talking 20 minutes to a 12-year-old who says, oh, I think you want to talk to my dad. They just wasted 20 minutes. They want to get right to the decision maker. They know they're not wasting time. So make sure the decision maker's in the room. Now, this sentence right here is very important. I would write this down or memorize it. This is basically how you get the temperature of the room and who you're with. If we were fortunate enough today to find the right solution for your needs, would you be in a position to proceed? And there's a lot of things going on in this sentence. The first part is a very modest, humble way of approaching it. If we were fortunate enough to find a solution, if we were fortunate enough. I'm not saying we are, I'm not saying we will or we have, I'm just saying it's on the table if we're fortunate enough to find it today, meaning not to procrastinate, today, get that sense of urgency in, and then say, it would be a solution, are you in a position to proceed? Being in a position to proceed means, can you write a check today, or are you the decision maker? That's a qualifying statement. So ask questions about the benefits that are most important to them. If it's you're selling cars, it's an SUV, make sure you focus on SUV stuff. If it's a copy machine and they're worried about pages per minute or collation, focus on those things. If you're selling IT solutions and they want less downtime, focus on downtime. Focus on what they need, the benefits they're looking for. And this is how you get a conversation going. You do the pronouns, which is open-ended, which means as a video producer, when I interview people, I can't ask them something like, what's your favorite color, and expect them to elaborate on that. What do you like most about something like this? When I say what, then I'm opening it up to a conversation. They cannot say yes or no. I've taken that off the table. So you want to keep asking these pronoun questions, because you'll eventually get a Freudian slip of key information by asking these questions, because it gets them involved and engaged. Now, when you're getting close to the end, you want to take the temperature of the room. Take the temperature of the room. That's very important. You would say, does this make sense? And then they would say yes or no. If they say no, you know you've got to go back. If they say yes, you know you've gained enough ground, you can lock it in there and move on. So these are good, are you ready to get started? Can we start today? You know, things like that. And then these are what I call sentences that take the temperature of the room. This is where people get a little sketchy, because this is where the no's and rejections can come in. When would you like us to get started? Tough question to ask people, because they're going to say, no, not yet. I didn't say I was going to get started. You need to hear that. They have to push back, because then you know where they are. It's like that warm, warm, cold. You know you're cold. You know you need to go back to something. And these are different ways to say the same thing. How many would you like delivered? Should I deliver it to your home or office? That gets the ball rolling, gets them thinking, we're moving forward here. You know where they are. You're taking the temperature of the room. And you should take the temperature of the room quite a bit. I usually, based on what I do, it's usually, does this make sense at this point? So I know I can hold on to that ground and move on from there. So the only pressure you should have in the close is silence. When you ask someone, are you ready to get started? And then you shut up. Or you're filling out a form about the color, make, and model. If they're buying furniture, listen, you like this color, you like this particular model, this brand, great, let's fill this out. And if you start filling out a form and they're like, no, don't fill out a form yet, because I had a guy who was selling insurance. He started filling out a form, and I get that. He's trying to buy me into the ownership of it. I wasn't ready to buy at that point. He just said, you know what? I'm just getting the information down so I don't forget it. I want to make sure I have everything. So if something comes up later, I'm writing down the kind of car you like, the kind of furniture you like, whatever it is, so that if something comes up, I can call you. This is just for my own edification, but it helps them get to own it a little bit when the form is filled out. And then when it's ready to sign, you basically say, this is a good sentence. If you would just authorize this right here, we can get started right away. Now you can imagine if you're an IT company and you're about to save someone a lot of downtime, they're going to want to get started right away. What I'm not saying is sign this contract. People hate that. People don't like that nowadays. Sign the contract. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do that. What I want to let them know is I'm going to get started on your solutions right away. Just authorize this and we'll get going, okay? That makes it easy. So what are the most common responses to closes? Participation. When you're closing someone and you say you're ready to get started, what do they typically say?
Can I have some time to think about it?
Right, can I think about it? I need to think it over, right? Now this is usually an impasse. This is where people stop. This is where a lot of closers who aren't really good closers will stop at this point. They've just put a barrier up between you and them, and your job is now to close that barrier, close that gap. So I agree with them. Every time you agree with your client, your prospect, you get on their side. I agree, this is something you need to think over. And then confirm that they're going to think it over. Listen, this is something very important. I understand that, I respect the fact you're going to think it over. But then, since this is interesting, I'm assuming you're going to give it careful consideration. Since you think since you are interested, you're going to give it careful consideration and make sure they're on board with that. However you do, however you sell, say it the way you want to say it. And then I clarify and I twist a little bit. This next one here, it says, just to clarify my thinking, what is it you want to think over? Is it the integrity of the company? Now look closely at that statement, that question. There are two questions there because I want a clarification, because I want to know what they're going to think about. It's okay to ask what they're going to think about. Now the reason those two questions are asked back to back is because I don't want them to answer the first one. It just makes it a longer process. They're going to answer that question with all kinds of detail. I don't want that. What I want to do is tag another question that I know the answer to, that we've already discussed. That's the key. What I'm going to do is go over things they've already agreed to that they understand. So I'm basically backing up and reviewing a lot of stuff that they said yes to get more yeses out of them. Even though they say no to this one, that's the same as a yes. Is it the integrity of the company? No, it's not the integrity of the company. I like the company. Then you ask again, is it the level of service you're concerned about? No, it's not the level of service. And you keep going over points that they agreed to. You're getting yeses. There's a book called The Road to Yeses, I think it is. If you get 7 yeses in a row, it's hard to stop saying yes at that point. I wish I'd known that when I was dating. But anyway, this is basically, you keep reviewing those things. You keep reviewing those things, and eventually they're going to start to think positive. All these things they wanted to think about, they're going to think about and say, you know what, you're right, we should just get started. So everything you can supply, you want to ask them about. And then at that point, they usually grab onto their last objection, which was the hidden objection, time, money, or something like that. It's usually time, it's usually money. They will bring that out, then you answer that objection. If it's time, you can show them how you can divide the time up or whatever it is in your business. If it's money, they can divide up the money and say, well, this is $10,000. I have $10,000 budget. You want $12,000. Well, we're only $2,000 apart. Over 3 years, that's $1,280 a month or a week. So we're really talking about a little bit, is it going to save you money? Yes. In the end, you're only spending $12 a week in the difference. Whatever it takes payment-wise. I had a client I just did a bid for. It was a rather large bid because I'm traveling to 7 or 8 cities. So the traveling itself was very expensive. So she said, I understand the price is good, but we can't afford this right now. So I just suggested, should we put it on next year's bill? Put it on next year's fiscal bill, so you're not getting it this year, you can put it in next year's budget. And they agreed, and we solved that problem. Didn't have to lower the price, change anything. We just put it on next year's budget. So you get to the final objections, and then you're ready to go. So here's a Ben Franklin quote. But before I get to this, there was another objection that people usually get. Is there a second objection you've heard of, other than, what is it?
I need to talk to my spouse.
Right. That's another one. I need to talk to my partner, whoever it is. That happens a lot in timeshare. It happens a lot with buying cars. It happens a lot with furniture. They say, I got to talk to my partner. Now, I took this out, but I have a minute. I'll explain how I handle this. If they have to talk to their partner, and that's the truth, they have to talk to their partner. For some reason, I didn't eliminate that early. I didn't get the decision makers in the room, and maybe this is typically just a stall tactic. I'll say, let's get them on the phone. Let's get the partner on the phone, right? Because if the partner makes the decisions and helps them make decisions, we'll get them on the phone. But first, I want to establish that the person in the room is on board. So I have their support. So I establish, okay, you've seen everything, all your objections have been answered, you're on board. Can I expect your support when you talk to your partner? And if the answer is no, I get to those objections until I get a yes from them, if they're on board. If they're on board, then we can call the partner and find out, and I'll say, listen, if they try to call their partner and their partner can't be, you can't get a hold of the partner, which is typically the case. There's still a route you can go. You can say, listen, you were here. You were here. She or he is probably going to ask you, what did you think of it? You had all your questions answered. You're here because they respect your opinion. I'll tell you what, let's just get started. Let's fill out this form and get the ball rolling, because if we don't get this started now, it's going to be a lot longer. And if they say, no, I'm not going to sign anything without my boss's or my partner's permission, sometimes you can get the contract filled out. If it's insurance, you can say, listen, this insurance contract, let's get the ball rolling on the paperwork, because if you say yes, it's going to take 2 weeks to get this ball rolling. Let's just start it now. If your partner has an objection, have them call me, and if there's an objection I can't answer, we'll tear it up. So you take that commitment out, they're like, okay, we got that, and you have part ownership, they got 1 foot in the water, they're ready to go. It's going to be hard to back out at that point. But if they say, I'm not doing anything until I talk to my partner, great. Then you take out your calendar and you say, when is your partner going to be available to talk? When do you think you'll talk with your partner? When can I circle back? And then you go back with their partner, call them on that date, and close it up. That's basically, you don't let that shut the door, get on their side, call the partner up. So here's a Ben Franklin quote that I like, that I've used for this. And it's basically, you empty the coins in your purse into your mind, and your mind will fill your purse with gold. What that really means is if you're in sales, you should always be studying sales. You should always be reading books. You should always be going to seminars. The rule of thumb is whatever you make in sales a year, you take 10% of that and use it in education. If you make $100,000 in sales in 1 year, you should be spending $10,000 on seminars. If you make $1 million, you should find a way to spend $100,000 on sales, because don't forget what got you there. And there's a lot of studies that have shown that people who stop spending money on their education, sales start to take a dip right after that. You forgot what got you there. Does that make sense? Is this valuable to anybody at all? Helpful? Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for your time.